Biden goes to Poland and gives us all a masterclass in diplomacy and peacemaking. Let's talk about it, y'all. Middle America.
And you ain't black.
The first time ever any...
What are you people?
We're Americans. We are Americans indeed. My name is Vincent. I usually say we're not left wing, we're not right wing, we're just right. But I was born and raised in a right wing environment there, listener. I guess you could say we're conservative evangelicals, pro-life, and then we found ourselves in the hellscape as what's known as American politics, really since the Trump era, I suppose. And it's been a very interesting ride because now I don't know where we actually belong. Definitely don't belong with our right-wing evangelical brethren. So I don't know. We're wanderers. Shout out to Clarissa, who made it first. She made it first. Okay, guys. So our president just recently gave a speech in Poland, which obviously is right there with Ukraine on the more west you go, and they are a NATO country. So that's interesting. And he gave a speech, and at the end of the speech, he kind of let the cat out of the bag, according to Max Blumenthal. But I just wanted us to do a little bit of a weekend review, maybe, on the big homie. So we've already talked about what's going on with Hunter Biden and the revelation yesterday that has not been denied yet by the Biden administration that Mr. Hunter Biden was negotiating DoD contracts with groups that were doing chemical, biochemical, zoonotic research. If that reminds you of anything in 2019 that destroyed everybody's life, you can do your own math there. But that President Biden's son, you can see it on the latest Middle America. He negotiated DoD contracts, as well as contracts with Black & Veatch, who's known for pathogenic research that could result in the deaths of many people. And so when Victoria Nuland said that they were concerned because there are biolabs in Ukraine, and they were concerned because the materials could end up in Ukraine, that's what she's talking about. Apparently. So this is where we are with our administration. We always knew that something untoward was happening between the Bidens and the Ukrainians, but we turned a blind eye to it apparently because anybody and anything was better than Trump apparently. But it seems that our president and his family has a particular investment in Ukraine. Mr. Biden has made a lot of money there. I'm talking about Hunter Biden. And as we saw yesterday, he negotiated millions and millions of dollars worth of a contract for these biochem research facilities and labs that study pathogens that kill people in Ukraine. So when the Russians were saying that the Americans are doing this and we were saying it's Russian propaganda, it's been close to 24 hours since that story broke in the Daily Mail, and we haven't heard a retort from it yet. But we're constantly told that Vladimir Putin's a madman, he's crazy, everything the Russians say is a lie. Everything we say is the truth. There were some people saying, oh, that's not that big of a deal because Biden's son doesn't set policy, as if that was ever the concern. this obviously puts compromise on Mr. Biden's actions in Ukraine, and there are obviously things that they didn't want the general public knowing, which is why the DNC apparently contacted Twitter and had Twitter take down the New York Post when they first broke the story about Hunter's laptop. So anybody who tries to make that story a non-issue is belied by the fact of how much work the DNC, the Biden family, Twitter, etc. went not only to stifle that story, but to stifle the laptop story in the beginning. And again, how many times is the term Russian propaganda going to be used as a successful shield anytime something negative comes out about the Biden administration or about Ukraine? I don't know if you guys have noticed that or not, but literally every single time some news comes out that's unfavorable to Mr. Biden or the Ukrainians, it is automatically, we're told automatically that it's Russian propaganda. Therefore, we no longer have to think. We don't have to think about it anymore. It's just Russian propaganda. Russia is a communist dictatorship. I don't know if Russia are actually communists. I don't think that Russia are currently communist. And I don't know how much of a dictatorship Russia is any more than the life that we all have here. But we continue. And here it is. Tomas Haba says most countries have biological labs where they study pathogens, don't they? Don't believe Russian propaganda just like U.S. Gov propaganda. Yes, most of them do. However, Ms. Newland said that she was concerned that the Russians could stumble upon certain materials that would be bad news. And so if it was just innocent lab, then why in the world would she be concerned about that? And why would you have a lab that has the potential for that type of destruction, especially when you talk about zoologics? Why do you have such a lab in such a hot zone? That's something I'd like to know. That's very, very, very important to me. Furthermore, Mr. Biden Jr. negotiated a deal with the Department of Defense. Why? I'd like to know. And does anybody feel nervous about that? That Hunter Biden was negotiating these labs, these pathogenic labs that Hunter Biden called that play? Does anybody have an issue with that or nah? Because I do. Okay. We continue. Wasn't what Russia said that these diseases were to target only Russians and specifically biological weapons lab, or am I misremembering? Because I heard them call biolabs now, not weapons labs. Well, yeah. No, I agree. Russia was saying that they were trying to kind of curate the disease with Slavic genetics so that it would only go after only harmfully affect Russian people. That side of it is unproven. I don't know if that's true or false. I wouldn't put that past our government. I wouldn't put that past the Ukrainian government. The Ukrainian government came out on TV, and the head of their FDA basically said that he instructed his doctors to castrate Russian POWs, and he said that on live television. He said it on live TV that they were going to castrate Russian POWs because they're cockroaches and they shouldn't reproduce. He said that on live TV. So I wouldn't put it past the Ukrainians and the Americans to do something like that to Russian people. So do what you will with that. But I'm sorry, the whole, oh, that's Russian propaganda. They got to come up with a new line, man. You got to come up with a new line. All I want to know is it true or false? That's all I care about. So if you want to tell me, hey, this piece of information, Vin, is false, just tell me it's false and tell me why it's false. But saying it's Russian propaganda doesn't resonate with me. As a matter of fact, if I hear the term Russian propaganda again, I'm probably going to assume it's true, because almost every time people say Russian propaganda, the thing that they're saying is propaganda turns out to be true. Oh, there's Nazis in Ukraine. Initially, they told me that's Russian propaganda. Meanwhile, you've got streets named after Stefan Bandera. You've got a mayor that's got the portrait of Stefan Bandera in the background. Okay, I was told that NATO expansion being a cause for this war is Russian propaganda. Then when I looked at it, for the last 30 years, everybody who's an expert in the region has been predicting that this thing was going to happen, whether you're Noam Chomsky or whether you're Ron Paul, Rand Paul, left-wing, right-wing, anarchist, libertarian, it doesn't matter. Everybody's been saying this for the past 30 years. Now all of a sudden it's Russian propaganda. So I was told that the Hunter Biden laptop thing, that was Russian propaganda. And there were 50 CIA / other alphabet groups that were telling us that was also Russian propaganda. You remember that? And then it turned out to be true. So when I hear the term Russian propaganda, I'm out, because I feel like you're using it to manipulate me. Do I believe that Russian people do propaganda? Yes. Do I believe that Ukrainians do propaganda? Yes. So all I'm going to say is the information true or false? Many times what is happening with propaganda, this is what people don't understand about propaganda. You can take a true event and use it for propaganda. Like 9/11 absolutely happened, but when when Fox News for a year and a half continuously before every segment showed the second plane crashing into the building, and then after that Green Berets hopping out of those new speed thingamajiggies, okay? That was a form of propaganda and psychological warfare. They were telling the truth. Yes, a plane did hit the building, and yes, Green Berets are jumping out of those things to go out and get busy. I understand that. But they were spitting the information in such a way as to propagandize me to support a war, join a war, and get me a nice layer of scar tissue above my heart. So when I hear about civilians being killed in Iraq, I don't care, because I've been watching American civilians die over and over and over again in Fox News. See how that works? So just because something is true doesn't mean the interpretation or the suggested action that should follow is true. And that is where most propaganda comes from. It's not making something up out of whole cloth. It's the interpretation that is used on a given issue and then the subtle application, right? So sometimes propaganda is just straight up lies. Like, for example, the ghost of Kiev. That was just a straight up lie. There's no ghost of Kiev who shot down 7 Russian planes in a matter of 3 days. That's a complete lie. The Snake Island story, again, was a true event where they did come in contact with a Russian warship. But the end of that was a lie. They did not fight to the last man and all die over there. They got captured. Okay. I never played the video of the Snake Island survivors. I have it, but I never played it because I'm not a fan of playing prisoners of war, and you can't take anything a prisoner of war says seriously because it's always used for propaganda, obviously. And I just think it's a low thing to do to videotape prisoners of war. So I'm completely and totally against that. Now, of course, the American media isn't, because they have no problem playing videos of captured Russian soldiers. But that is what that is. Okay. So that's where we are. Because I agree with Kyle. Propaganda is not always necessarily false. Now the Ukrainian propaganda, which I think is pretty weak, is false. Like when they would talk about they were using like Call of Duty, like clips from video games to convince us of the bravery and the intrepid nature of their military. Okay, that was all Call of Duty. I think that's a real bad attempt at propaganda, because now it completely turns any thinking person against you, right? So now I'm like, whoa, you guys lied to me about Snake Island. You lied to me about the Call of Duty stuff. You lied to me about, you took a Russian flyover in Moscow and said it was warplanes in Kiev. You did all this shit, like explicitly try to insult my intelligence. So now I'm not going to believe a word you have to say. I haven't seen the equivalent of that on the Russian side, by the way. I haven't seen the equivalent of that kind of blatant, bold, we're just going to lie to you and insult your intelligence and all the rest of that jazz. I haven't seen that on the Russian side. So, look, that's where we are, guys. Okay, that's pretty much been the week for us. We've got Hunter Biden negotiating deals with biochem labs that if fallen into the wrong hands, could be a cause for concern, according to Victoria Nuland. Okay, all right, now here is Joe Biden giving us all a masterclass in how to de-escalate a situation and bring about world peace. Here we go.
I think he is a war criminal.
An impromptu remark with the potential to permanently alter U.S.-Russia relations.
I think he
The
is
invasion
a
of
war
Ukraine
criminal.
is now in its fourth week, with each day bringing new civilian casualties at the hands of Russian forces. While U.S. President Joe Biden's offhand declarations may have landed him in hot water before, the White House insists this time was no gaffe.
The president's remarks speak for themselves. He was speaking from his heart and speaking from what he's seen on television, which is barbaric actions by a brutal dictator through his invasion of a foreign country.
The Kremlin quickly denounced what it called unacceptable and unforgivable rhetoric, but it's new U.S. arms shipments that will likely have a more tangible impact on Moscow's plans. Wednesday saw Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky deliver an emotional video address to American lawmakers, invoking 9/11, Pearl Harbor, and Martin Luther King in his plea for help. And while Ukraine...
That's why I'm wearing my Malcolm shirt. I'm wearing my Malcolm shirt right now. I don't know. Zelensky doesn't have a real understanding of the black struggle, as many Europeans don't. But which they're saying, hey, we're Europe, so they're Europe. They're not Eurasia. They're Europe. Mr. Zelensky, Dr. King was a pacifist. He believed in extreme pacifism. It was Malcolm that said, if these folks show up, we're gonna take care of business by any means necessary. Invoking Dr. King in order to get a no-fly zone or to get more weapons to kill people indicates that you didn't really read a lot of what Dr. King actually wrote. But most Europeans who get on TV that quote Dr. King don't respect brother enough to do that. Anyway, but I ain't mad at you. I ain't mad at you for that. It's just very, very ironic. We continue.
won't be getting the NATO-enforced no-fly zone Zelensky wants. It will be getting $800 million worth of new U.S. military aid, including 2,000 Javelins, 6,000 AT-4s, and 800 Stinger missiles that have proven their effectiveness at destroying Russian armor and helicopters. The Ukrainians will also be receiving a shipment of Switchblade-armed drones, portable, lightweight flying missiles that can loiter upwards of 30 minutes over a battlefield in order to find a target. To help Ukraine defend its skies at higher altitudes, Washington is also reportedly planning to arrange the delivery of Soviet-era S-300 anti-aircraft missile systems from NATO allies in Eastern Europe.
Okay, so Vladimir Putin is a war criminal. Vladimir Putin is a war criminal. Look at all the horrors that have happened in Ukraine. Okay, all right. Somebody, some middle American said, "Wow, talk about lacking self-awareness." Dear listener, here's Amnesty International. Okay, here's Amnesty International. Okay, U.S. deadly drone strikes. You can see here, the little kid is by the graffiti. The graffiti reads, here, I'll show you. "Why did you kill my family?" That's what the graffiti reads. "Why did you kill my family?" There's Amnesty International talking about United States drones. Dear listener, I want you to look very closely at what I'm about to show you. Okay? Here we go. Who was a president in the year 2013? Who was a president in 2013? Let me check. Who was president in 2013? Oh! Barack Hussein Obama, sworn into his second term of the President of the United States by John Roberts at the White House, January 21st, 2013. Okay. So, who was the vice president in 2013? Oh, that was Joe Biden. Okay. All right, dear listener. Here we go. Here's what Amnesty International has to say. Individuals are targeted. Individual targets are identified and being killed at the press of a button from a drone operator sitting behind a screen thousands of miles away. However, leaked Pentagon documents show that during a 5-month period in 2013, 90% of those killed by U.S. drone strikes in Operation Haymaker in northeast Afghanistan were unintended targets. That means when we push the button, 9 out of 10 times, we were killing the wrong people. In 2013, in a 5-month period, we massacred those people who had nothing to do with this conflict over there in Afghanistan. In fact, according to the Bureau of Investigative Journalism, U.S. drone strikes have killed 1,551 civilians in Afghanistan, Pakistan, Somalia, and Yemen since 2004. Some of those deaths appear to have been unlawful and maybe even amount to extrajudicial executions or war crimes. That would also have to include Anwar al-Awlaki, Abdul Rahman al-Awlaki, both of whom were droned. Anwar al-Awlaki, I know for a fact, was a U.S. citizen. He was born in New Mexico. Now, was he a good guy? Nope. He was my favorite sheikh. I loved him, but he wasn't a good guy. What should have happened is he should have been snatched and grabbed. We had a zero on where he was. Dudes were ready to go snatch and grab him, but nope. We droned him. That's an extrajudicial execution. Now look at this. The Bureau of Investigative Journalism. That means there's a bureau that investigates, yada, yada, yada. How many of you believe this number, 1,551? Between 2004 and 2013, when 90% of those killed are civvies. Now, the way that Amnesty International gets around explicitly calling us war criminals is saying, and may even amount to extrajudicial executions or war crimes. Because a war crime is if you purposely go and target a civvy, that's a war crime. But if you say, I was targeting this guy, I was targeting Abu al-Saif al-Walid, and it just so happened that we killed his whole family, and oops, he wasn't there, that's not a war crime. Because we did not intend to. It's sort of like there's a weapons lab if you intend to activate those weapons against your enemy. It's a weapons lab. But if you're doing the exact same research, but you don't intend to unleash it on people, it is a research facility. So when the Russians say, hey, you guys are playing around with some stuff over there that makes us really uncomfortable, you can weaponize that shit, we go, oh, this is propaganda. We were researching it. Hello, we're good. We're America. We're Ukraine. We're good. So it can't be that we're doing this to weaponize it against a possible invasion from you guys, even though the lab that was helping us do the research said that their stated purpose was to establish and assert Ukrainian independence and a move westward. It's just research. Oh, no. These are not war crimes. They may be war crimes. They may be. But we didn't intend to kill civilians. We did not intend to kill these beautiful people here, created the image and likeness of God. That happened under the Obama administration. Who was the vice president when all that went down? That's right, Joe Biden. Okay? Joe Biden was the vice president. Look, I said this over and over again. Does that make him as culpable as Obama? No, but it does tell you where his mind is. What did I tell you when we were talking about, dear listener, when we were talking about the treatment of people at the border? And people saying, oh, Trump put kids in cages. And I said, yeah, but Biden was the vice president when those cages were being built. So how much farther from the mean do you think that he is ideologically from Trump in this regard? He was a vice president. He never said anything against building these cages. Oh, that's ridiculous. Blah, blah. He wasn't the president. He had to go along with Obama. That's whataboutism. And now you got kids in cages still. So this guy who was there while we initiated a drone plan that 90% of the time was killing civilians. Unintended targets. You see how they play games with words? We had a drone plan that was killing civilians at a clip of 9 times out of 10 when you press the button. But Putin is a war criminal. The audacity of the United States of America is unbelievable. Unbelievable. If somebody does a drive-by shooting, killing innocents, can they claim they didn't intend to kill the innocents? No. Which is why government gets special privileges when it comes to murder. Correct. You got to break a few eggs, guys. Got to break a few eggs. The audacity of us calling anyone a war criminal is unbelievable. Unbelievable. And again, why does Biden feel that he even has to get to that point? Aren't we supposed to try to de-escalate this stuff? Why is calling this man a war criminal on an official basis now? Why are we doing that? How does that help Ukrainian people? All that does is push the drumbeat and the desire and the bloodlust up another inch higher. That's all it does. Is Putin a war criminal? Look, based on his actions in Chechnya, I don't think that Mr. Putin makes much of a differentiation between what a civilian is and what a combatant is. And based on the Ukrainians' Machiavellian use of their own people, as we've seen, putting howitzers by malls or putting howitzers by schools, I believe war crimes have been committed on both sides in tandem in the same situation at times. Because my belief is that if there is a howitzer by a mall, that mall then becomes impossible to be a legitimate target. Putin believes if there's a howitzer there, I don't care, we're lighting it up. He doesn't care. I think that makes him a war criminal. I also think the people who put the howitzers by schools and the howitzers by malls, I think that makes them really horrible war criminals because they're doing it to their own people. I think the Azov Nazis who were not letting people leave cities that were under severe bombardment, I think those people are war criminals. I absolutely do. And I think that Mr. Putin's a despicable man. If he knows that those Azov folks are not letting the civilians out, he should do a flyover and not bomb those people. That's what I think. I'm disgusted by both of them. One more than the other, though. You know, betrayal, there's a lot of sins that you see in the New Testament. And the only one who never gets forgiven is the traitor. Betrayal is a hell of a thing when you sell out and you sacrifice your own flesh and blood. That's what I think. That's what I think. Vin, I think that you need to know a bit more. I'd recommend watching the Chieftain's video on that information. On what information? On what information? Biden slipped and told the 82nd Airborne they were going into Ukraine. The White House says it's scrambled to walk it back. He's going to get us all Allahu Akbar. Send me the link for that, guys. Send me the link for that. I have a question for you then. Do you believe that Jesus is about to return with all things that are happening in this world? No. No, I don't. No. I believe that it's our job to gardenize the world, and I don't think that Jesus' plan is to, give us all the answers to the test, as it were. I think he's given us all enough wisdom and principles and the Sermon on the Mount to know how to make this world a habitable world. And I think he's going to come back when we've got it figured out. I don't think he's going to come back and save us for ourselves or whatever. On the howitzers and the like, he did a video. River, what is there to know about it? Did they put the howitzers by schools and malls, or did they not? If he's saying they did not, then he has to explain how those people are liars. And if that's the case, it's very possible. But if he's saying that there is a military strategy for putting howitzers by schools and by malls, I know that strategy. I'm very, very, very familiar with that strategy. So is he denying it or not? That's what I'd like to know. But by all means, send me the information. Yeah, but Izzy, hit me in the Facebook thingy and show me where he said anything about what do you call it? Sending in the 82nd. Because if he did say he was sending in the 82nd, that would not be good news. That would not be good news at all. Okay. And then, dear listener, we have this wonderful gem from Mr. Biden. Recently, just a couple hours ago, he gave a talk in Poland, and I was about to live stream the whole thingamajiggy, but I decided against it because I couldn't. To be honest with you, I couldn't deal with that much time Mr. Biden. But here we go. Here's Biden, and let's check it out.
For God's sake, this man cannot remain in power. God bless you all, and may God defend our freedom, and may God protect our troops. Thank you for your patience. Thank you.
Thank you for your patience. Yeah, he said that when you get there, meaning Ukraine, to the 82nd Airborne, sitting Allahu Akbar. Oh my God. There it is, guys. And you know, you got the 82nd in Poland, which is right there with Ukraine. It's tantamount putting the 82nd in Kuwait when we're war drumming on Iraq. It's just a horrible situation. I love how they always use God's name in this nonsense. Correct. If you want to bring, if you really want to press me on using God's name in vain, I don't think saying, oh my God, is using God's name in vain. This shit right here is using God's name in vain. The literal Hebrew means you shall not bring the name of the Lord your God to nothing. That's what it means. You shall not empty it of its weight. You try to employ the Almighty into this scheme, I don't think he's a fan. But let's watch it again. Let's watch it again.
For God's sake, this man cannot remain in power. God bless you all, and may God defend our freedom, and may God protect our troops. Thank you for your patience. Thank you. Thank you.
And how pray tell, Mr. President, Ya Amir al-Mu'mineen, how pray tell do you plan on accomplishing that feat? Removing Mr. Putin from power. How do you plan on doing that? See, this is the stuff to me where I'm like, on the one hand, I had a president a couple years ago who just couldn't keep his hands off Twitter. And I'd be like, bro, would you please just shut up? Stop saying stuff. Okay, I thought for the most part it was benign. It couldn't really hurt a fly. If you're black in America, trust me, you've heard worse than anything that Trump has ever said on Twitter. But for the most part, it was all. There were a couple times though where Trump said some crazy shit on Twitter, like when after they killed the Iranian dude, and the Iranians were saying, "We're gonna do something to you guys. You watch." Trump went on Twitter and said, "We will fucking destroy." He's like, "We will destroy all of your national landmarks. Don't fuck with us." It was some crazy shit. And then like a day later, the Iranians shot down their own plane because they were terrified that we were in their airspace. Okay. So you had the normal, I don't care. And then he goes off and says that. And in my opinion, nobody can convince me those people that died in that airliner died specifically because of Trump. Because he said that. We're going to go and bomb the shit out of your country and all your national landmarks and all that. I completely believe that was, they panicked. Trump sent them in a panic because they said, this motherfucker, he will do that shit. So I get it. But it's one thing when the guy goes on Twitter and does it. It's another thing when you call the entire world to come to you and say, okay, listen to me. I'm going to provide some moral and practical leadership as to how to get us out of this horrible situation. Mostly Canadians on that plane. Correct. Because those are Westerners trying to flee because they were also terrified by Trump's pronouncements. But yeah, it was very effective, DJ. It resulted in the deaths of the horrifying deaths of a bunch of civilians who were just trying to visit their family and then go back home safely because they were terrified that our crazy ass president was about to turn their country into a parking lot. So they tried to leave, but the military was also terrified, so they shot down the plane because they were in a state of hypervigilance because our president couldn't control himself on Twitter. So that's not funny to me. That's not funny to me. But now, that's Twitter. Now, you've got the president telling the whole world, come listen to what I have to say. I'm going to come very, very close to the war zone. I'm going to have the 82nd out there in the front lines there. And I'm going to tell you guys what needs to happen. Here's the leadership that we need out of this morass of death, destruction, decay, propaganda, bioweapons labs, etc., etc., etc. And he says, this guy, we need to get him. We need to get him out of here. For God's sake, you're going to invoke the Almighty. For God's sake, he needs to be taken out of power. What? Is nobody thinking about the ramifications of one world, the most powerful, recognizable world leader getting on the world stage and saying something like that? You think that's as bad as Twitter? I don't recall Trump ever saying anything that incendiary about another world leader. You know what I remember Trump doing, to be honest with you? You know what I remember, to be honest with you? I remember Trump crossing the border and shaking hands with Kim Jong-un, whatever his name is. I remember that. I remember Trump saying, we need to talk to these people. Trump seemed to be like a de-escalator on a good day. On a good day, Trump would try to de-escalate with these despots. And I think it's because they kind of all have a certain kinship with each other. But then he'd go on Twitter and do some dumb shit. You know, he was liable to light up the world by saying some dumb shit on Twitter. But Biden goes in there, and he's always doing this to these world leaders, man. I don't know. I really look forward to World War III. That way Jesus gets us out of here. I'd rather be with him than in this wicked world. I think that's horrible. I think that's a horrible, unchristian mindset to have. There's nowhere in the scripture, in the Old or New Testament, where we're told to pray for war or hope for war. Ever. It's crazy that, you know, Western Christians sitting there with their Starbucks and all the rest of it in the comfort of their own homes, talking about they want World War III because they don't like the wickedness of the world. If you don't like the wickedness of the world, go outside and unwickedize your world. Do something that's positive in the world instead of sitting back and hoping that Jesus comes to rescue you from a mess that we made if you're an American. I love you as a brother in Christ, but I cannot. That mentality is so anti-Christian. World War III means almost certain death for millions of people in a horrific fashion. But you think because you're going to get zapped out of here that it's going to be well with you and the people you love and fuck everybody else. That's not a Christian mentality, and you will not find that anywhere in the New Testament. Not a single place is anybody told to look forward to war. Not once. And it's always the bad guys in the scripture who look forward to war. Good guys never look forward to war in the scripture. Never. Oh my gosh. What a horrible mentality to have. You can't wait for World War III. It's stuck for a while. God forgive you. God forgive you. Listen to your filthy mouth, Christian. Is that very Christian? I don't talk like that. I know. You're a better Christian than me. You probably are. You probably are. And I'll leave myself to the mercy of God for saying fuck. And then you leave yourself to the mercy of God for desiring a world war. Unfreaking believable. Okay, let's get back to our regularly scheduled program. Talk about straining at a gnat and swallowing a camel, huh? You desire World War III. Unbelievable. Yeah, look, even Odin says to not look forward to war. Even Odin. Odin's up there in Valhalla chilling, getting ready for the last day. Even he's telling you not to look forward to war. I wish you'd become an Odinist and leave that Christianity behind. Go hang out with Odin. That Christianity that desires World War III and all those weapons and the death of all these people so you can have a more comfortable life, go follow Odin, because that's not Jesus. I guarantee you that. Whatever person you're following that's telling you to desire World War III because you don't want to pay higher gas prices, that's not. Go follow Odin. You have a better shot. I'm dead serious. Unbelievable. Desiring the end of the world is a far-right evangelical thing. Well, I'm a right-wing evangelical, and I do not desire the end of the world at all. I desire the improvement of the world and us loving our neighbor and all the rest of it. Now, that probably kicks me out of certain evangelical circles, but I just think it's so inappropriate when so many people are suffering, largely because of United States interference. Largely because of the apathy of Americans. I just read to you guys that we had a bombing campaign with drones where we literally would push a button and 9 times out of 10 we were killing people that had nothing to do with the conflict, much less the people that we identified. Think about this. 9 out of 10 of them were, quote, unintended targets. How do we know that the intended target deserve dying or killing in the first place? We don't. But I read these stats and we talk about it and then we just go on with our day. We don't care. And a lot of this is blowback from our own apathy. Because I keep saying this over and over again. We can hold our leaders accountable. We cannot hold Zelensky accountable. We cannot hold Putin accountable, but we can hold our folks accountable. But we're so apathetic, and we honestly look deep inside. Man, you really don't care about all those people we killed in Afghanistan. You don't care. Most of us don't. Let's just be real. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. Okay. So obviously that statement from Mr. Biden where he says, for God's sake, we need to get this man out of power is a very incendiary statement because it begs the question, and how, pray tell, Mr. Biden, is that supposed to happen? More regime change wars, maybe. So just for balance, though, because I'm always trying to do my best to balance this stuff out. Here we go. Biden's folks have already found a way to deal with that. Check this out. From a White House official after Biden's speech, the president's point was that Putin cannot be allowed to exercise power over his neighbors or the region. He was not discussing Putin's power in Russia or regime change. Okay? So when he says, for God's sake, we need to get this man out of power, he did not mean power in Russia or regime change. What he meant was Putin cannot be allowed to exercise power over his neighbors or the region. Okay? Now, obviously that's not what he meant, but it gives some plausible deniability to Russia, so Putin doesn't have to do any, saber rattling and acting like he's tougher than he really is in response to that, because we walked it backwards. Okay? Yes, it's some verbal gymnastics, but it is what it is. Now, dear listener, as far as the week in the review goes, I wanted to read one more article for you beautiful people, and then I will be off and let you guys have the rest of your day. Maybe, because I might come back if I hear anything more about Hunter building more crazy biolabs with Ukrainians. Nothing to see here, though. Nothing to see here. Okay, guys, let me bring this article to you, and then we'll be off. Because I wanted to read this to you because I want you to think with me about how ironic this is, and how crazy this is. Okay? So, here you go. Now, Sori and I were binging on true crime. And one of the questions they always ask in true crime is, who stands to benefit most from this death, right? So our country is consistently, by the way, shout out to the Misery Machine. You guys should check them out if you're into true crime. They do true crime with a heart, though, to be honest with you. I love Misery Machine. I actually did an interview with them about a couple true crime situations, unfortunately, that we were in the middle of. Okay. So there's that. So let's check this out, guys. Look at this. A day ago, the EU signs a U.S. gas deal to curb reliance on Russia. Interesting. This is from the BBC, by the way. Do what you will with it. The U.S. and the EU have announced a major deal on liquefied natural gas in an attempt to reduce Europe's reliance on Russian energy. The agreement will see the U.S. provide the EU with extra gas equivalent to around 10% of the gas it currently gets from Russia by the end of the year. The bloc has already said it will cut Russian gas use in response to Russia's invasion of Ukraine. Russia currently supplies about 40% of the EU's gas needs. The new deal will involve the U.S. and other countries supplying an extra 15 billion cubic meters of gas on top of last year's 22 billion cubic meters. Okay? So we were 22 billion cubic meters to 32 to 37 billion cubic meters. The new total will represent around 24% of the gas currently imported from Russia. And we get a 10% cut of that. The eventual aim is for the U.S. and the international partners to provide about 50 billion cubic meters per year to the EU. Notice it says the U.S. and international partners. Who do you think is going to get the biggest cut of that? Cutting reliance on Russia will mean generating more renewable energy and improving energy efficiency as well as increasing imports. Really? So if it was just to the benefit of the Europeans, why did they wait till this jihad for them to make that decision? How come they didn't do it before? So look at this. We're going to go, we went from 22 billion to 37 billion. Then we're looking at 50 billion. And we're going to get the lion's share of the cut because there are other international parties, etc., etc. The deal was announced on Friday during a 3-day visit by U.S. President Joe Biden to Brussels. Mr. Biden and European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen discussed Russia's invasion of Ukraine and offered fresh support to Kiev. Putin is using Russia's energy resources to coerce and manipulate its neighbors, Mr. Biden told reporters in Brussels. He's used the profits to drive his war machine. He said the long-term benefits of the deal would outweigh the short-term pain that reducing Russian gas supplies would cause. There you go, Europe. There you go. I know that eliminating Russian gas will have costs for Europe, but it's not only the right thing to do from a moral standpoint, it's going to put us on a much stronger strategic footing. Yes, it will, because we will be stronger for it in the long run. We will benefit. The Russians will suffer, the Europeans will suffer, but the Americans will benefit in the long run. President von der Leyen said, "We want as Europeans to diversify away from Russia towards suppliers that we trust, that are friends, and that are reliable." She pointed out that the target 50 billion cubic meters per year is replacing 1/3 already of the Russian gas going to Europe today. So we are right on track now to diversify away from Russian gas. The EU gets 40% of its gas from Russia. If it's to wean itself off that dependency, it needs to get its energy elsewhere. The question is from where? Gas is already piped from Norway, but these pipelines are already operating at max capacity. The EU gets relatively little from the North Sea. New supplies will have to come further afield in the form of LNG, gas that's been chilled and liquefied. But there's already intense competition for LNG supplies from countries such as Algeria and Qatar, and that's been pushing up prices. The 50 billion cubic meters of gas a year from the U.S., more than double the current quantity, would certainly be welcome. Notice how at the beginning of the article, it was U.S. and certain partners. And now what we're hearing is, it's the U.S. It's the U.S. So we've got a plan to go from, currently it's at 22 billion. Now it's at 37 billion. And we're shooting for 50 billion cubic meters of gas a year from us. It still wouldn't fill the gap if the Russian supplies were moved. These are also question marks about how much gas the U.S. can supply, how quickly it can increase its exports to the EU, and how much of those shipments will cost. The EU has been enjoying cheap gas for many years, but now it seems to have accepted that that era is coming to an end. Russia's war with Ukraine has helped push energy prices to record highs. Energy prices were already rising before the invasion as economies started to recover from the COVID crisis. Ukraine invasion prompted the EU to pledge to cut Russian gas use by 2/3 this year by hiking imports from other countries and boosting renewable energy. I was talking to one of my guys, a supplier over, I work with him in Germany. He's like, look, man, we got to renegotiate this thing because you know what's happening to us, yada, yada, yada. I said, yeah, I know. If you guys would have approved Nord Stream 2, this actually would have helped us. He said, don't talk to me about it. He was very angry. So here we go. In 2020, we were 6.5% of their gas, and then we're going to become anywhere from 10 to 15% of their gas supplier. Does that not to mention the billions in weapons sales to all the EU countries. Does that maybe give you some context for why we keep beating these war drums? Does that give you some context to why we were supporting the Maidan revolution, coup, however you want to call it? Does that give you context to why we were always floating around the idea that we would have them in NATO, even though we knew we would never have them in NATO? Does that explain to you why we wouldn't go to the UN and put out a hard and fast declaration we will never have Ukraine in NATO? Why we were constantly poking the bear over and over again, sending them billions of dollars of weapons throughout all these different presidencies, trying to get this guy to lose his mind, which he did, and invade Ukraine so that you could have an economic justification to make a complete pariah out of this country, and then we randomly end up benefiting. And now you've got all these European countries saying, holy shit, you need to expand NATO. We want membership in NATO now. And who ends up benefiting from all of this? Who's benefiting? Who's benefiting from all of this? Unbelievable. Unbelievable. If you don't see are Ukrainians dying so the USA can profit from gas? Guys, this is all a giant Game of Thrones operation. These people are playing with people's lives. They're playing with people's lives, not only for something as small as gas prices, but it's about strategic dominance in the world. A weak Russia is a weak China. And we're playing a very, very dangerous game now. We're betting on the idea that the Chinese and the Indians won't get together and say, man, let's create our own bloc with the Russians so we can compete, because these Americans have way too much power. So Biden already met with Xi and said there will be severe consequences if you guys do anything to help Russia. I think Putin's endgame is to dismantle the petrodollar. Putin already announced he will only accept rubles for energy sales. Correct. And in the speech, Mr. Biden apparently said, "We've turned the rubles into rubble." It's a good play on words there, Mr. Biden. But when you say that, all I'm hearing is that we're making life for normal Russian people a living hell. So look, here's the thing about the United States and how we plan and how we chess play and how we continuously do this. We never figure out maybe other people are playing chess too. And maybe Mr. Putin has a goal in this too. And maybe there's a reason he went in at this particular time and he didn't do it 4 years ago. Maybe. I don't know. But we'll have to see. But to me, here's the thing. You cannot accurately predict what one human being is going to do, much less a whole nation of human beings are going to do, much less a multitude of nations are going to do. And you don't need, if you've got a plan, you don't need many things to screw up for the plan to completely destroy everything. These are things called unintended consequences, guys. I don't think the people who were, I don't think the people who were reimagining the world when they were reorienting the map for the Arab Spring, I don't think they said, yeah, and we're going to have slave markets, and we're going to have 6-year-old girl sex slaves, and we're going to have a group like ISIS that chops people's heads off on camera. Yeah, we're going to do that. I don't think they thought that. But these are unintended consequences. I don't think when we were supporting al-Mujahideen in Afghanistan, yeah, this is going to stand up the tally because they don't understand Salafist Islam. All they understood was, hey, we're gonna go after the USSR. Great. They didn't understand Salafist Islam. They didn't understand Islamic history. They didn't understand the connections to the Battle of Badr and Islamic prophecy and all the rest of it that was seemingly fulfilled. None of that. It's just okay, great. Now we've stood up the tally, and we incubated folks like bin Laden. We didn't think that. We just thought about the Russians. All these unintended consequences to these attempts at world domination. It's madness. It's insane. What's the worst that could happen if you arm a bunch of far-right race purist nationalists like Azov and C-14 and the Right Sector and Svoboda? By the way, Bill, Svoboda's still around. I know you were saying that Zelensky was trying to undo those folks, but they're still around. Well, what's the worst that can happen if you send folks like that billions of dollars of weapons? We never learn. We're doomed. We're doomed. But we're not. Why would you want me to give up my Christianity? I've been saved for 40 years, nearly Assemblies of God, that I prove that Jesus is coming. I don't want you to give up your Christianity. I do want you to give up this almost sociopathic hope that World War III is good news because the rest of the world is going to be consumed with petroleum, nuclear warfare, blood, guts, broken bones, broken babies, mothers with children ripped from their arms, husbands never seeing their wives again, etc., etc. All the horrors of war. That you could desire all the horrors of war so that you can get zapped out from the comfort of your American home while everybody else deals with the ramifications of our apathy. I'm specifically talking about American apathy. No, I don't think that that's not a Christ-like attitude. That's not a Christ-like attitude. And that's not the mission that Christ left us behind to do. If the point was, yeah, just man, leave these human beings to their own devices and let the world drown in blood, then he would have took us all when he was here the first time. He left us behind. There's work to do in the world. So this escapist mentality that we've been given in the last 150 years in Western American Christianity is toxic bullshit. It's not true. It's not real. And it has influenced people's votes toward more war because folks want to initiate World War III so that they can get raptured. That's not Christianity. It's not Christianity. In my opinion, particularly why Putin went in at the time he did, there was something happening, some plans we had, or some looming threat. As fucked up as it is, it seems more logical it was a defensive measure. I mean, Chicken Beak, your guess is literally as good as mine. Like we said, we just found out yesterday that Mr. Biden's son was securing deals for biochemical research outfits that were successfully making pathogens and all the rest of it. But those are just research facilities. Those aren't weapons facilities because their intentions are all pure, because obviously we would not be supporting them if they didn't. Right? I mean, that's where we are, dear listener. That's where we are. The current situation in Russia is why a mingling of church and state is bad. That's an interesting take. I don't know if I agree or disagree. Maybe you can outline that. We'll do a little bit of Ask Me Anything before I get out of here, guys. And thank you for your patience. I've been all over the place with this one, but maybe it was a little bit of a vent session. I was so blown away by our president getting up there. And look, man, whoever the president is, the president is. Like, I'm going to do my best to honor. You'll notice here on this channel, I don't mock Hunter Biden's drug issue. I think it's actually pretty serious. So I don't do that. And you'll see that I won't mock Joe Biden's mental state. One, because I don't believe that it's as bad as people think it is. But two, I just believe that you should honor the leaders that God put over you. So I'm doing my best to honor the guy, but man, the audacity of this man to get on the world's, and just how dangerous it is to say that he needs to be removed. It's unbelievable. It's absolutely unbelievable. This man cannot remain in power. So thank you guys for hanging out in this vent session here, because everybody needs friends once in a while. You can't. No man's an island. You can't do this all by yourself. You need your friends with you, and some of this is me trying to kind of walk my talk, because I truly believe that Americans are responsible for this because of how apathetic we've been in regard to the news. So some of what I'm doing is one of the small ways I'm trying to walk back some of my apathy. Last year, there was a lot of racial stuff going on in the media, and I made a decision to stay out of that because I was out. You know, it's important to me to protect my mental health. It's very, very important to me, and so I wasn't shooting, and the channel was taken off. We had the Jimmy Dore interview. We had a couple other things going on, and I purposely didn't cover the news because it was all racial stuff. It was a Rittenhouse stuff. It was the guy that got chased down by the other dudes. There was a cop killing him, you know. So I just stayed out of that stuff because you know me. I like to do a little bit of research and have all my sources, and I just wasn't going to do the work around that stuff because even though I'm a pacifist. Let me say it this way. I have a lot of these shirts. I got a lot of Malcolm X shirts. I don't have any Martin Luther King shirts. I don't have any Gandhi shirts. So when I say I'm a pacifist in by conviction based on the Jesus that I follow. But I'm not a pacifist as far as like my internal disposition. So watching that stuff isn't good for my mental health, and it's not good for the people around me. One time, me and Sori were driving at night, and we saw, you know, those cops that'll just park there with their lights off to try to get you. And I drove by, and I was like, what the fuck, this fucking guy? I said, how does this help anybody? She goes, yeah, that really doesn't help. That's not serving and protecting. So we swung around. So I was going to swing around and like just fuck with the guy. So I pulled up right next to him, and Sori had the camera out, and you know, I was all. Then I looked at it was like some nice young guy in the forest. He's like 20 years old or whatever. I had just ran into him in a previous situation where helping somebody out. So I just said, hey man, what's going on? And then we went home. You know what I'm saying? So I was like, I was really going to make that guy's night very, very miserable. But you know, I decided against it. But yeah, so that's one of the reasons, that I didn't do a lot of shooting all of last year. But I shoot a lot now because, this is not something I'm directly affected by, and so I feel like other people need to, you know, if you're not directly affected by something, then you should speak out on behalf of other people. I saw a lot of people shooting on the racial situations last year, and that did my heart well, but I never shot anything. So yeah, I backed off on the guy, Candy Apples, because I felt bad for him because he was new to the force, and we had this girl that we were helping because she randomly broke down. It turned out drugs, boyfriend, all types of whatever. And so we were out there for like an hour with this girl trying to get her car fixed. And then he had pulled up, and he was actually pretty helpful, although he divulged all of our personal information to us because he read from me that I had some sort of background or whatever. So he started spilling all this girl's information or whatever. So when we rolled up on the cop that was sitting there, it was him. So I was like, all right, it could be nice. The guy felt bad for him. But yeah, so I stayed away. I stayed away from all the racial stuff because it wasn't good for my mental health. It wasn't good for my mental health at all. Vin, you're teaching a watered down, worldly type of Christianity I thought I really liked you. Well, God bless you and your wife. Hope you enjoy Valhalla. I mean, I didn't know that I was teaching anything. I was reporting on the news. I didn't know I was teaching any Christianity. I don't know how it's watered down, though. I don't think saying that we should follow the Sermon on the Mount and do the hard work actually loving our neighbor instead of comfortably sitting in America and saying, screw our neighbor, let them all burn and drown. I didn't know that was a watered down version of Christianity, but you know, okay. My relationship with God is pretty set. So, you know, I'm not going to say I don't care about your opinion. I'm just saying your opinion as to, you know, where me and God aren't really germane to the reality of it. Let me say it that way. Okay. All right, guys. So there we are. Thank you guys so much for hanging out. That's been the week in review. Listen to Amy Lee, Vin. Wait, Amy Lee's in here? What's good, Amy Lee? Oh, Vin, do a music live stream on the other channel. We all need some fun. Allow live chat requests. Let's get spontaneous. How would we do live chat requests? My partner in crime is sick as a dog, so I don't know how we would be able to do that. So I don't know. Oh, look at that. River says I'm the nicest Christian he's ever met. Well, thank you for that, River. I appreciate it. All right, guys, we got to get out of here. I might jump on the other channel, might do some spontaneous stuff, and I might do that. I just have a hard time doing reviews without my partner in crime. So I don't know. Having said that, dear listener, I got to jump out of here. Vin out. In the meantime, love your neighbor, take care of each other. Middle America, we are the media. Till next time, guys.